We're tackling the topics the church needs to talk about. Let's talk about the elephant in the room.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Melissa.
Hi, everyone, and I'm Jackie.
And thank you for tuning in for a new live episode for the Big E, the elephant in the room. We have some wonderful guests today and a great topic that I think everyone will enjoy. So we are truly welcome and honored to have wonderful pastors. We have Pastor Paul Graham and Pastor Patrick Graham from, of course, we all know Snack Time with the Grahams. And we also have Pastor Daniel Kelly from Trinity Worship Center in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. So we welcome you, gentlemen, for this wonderful topic. We'll be talking about pastors overcoming obstacles.
Everyone, just go ahead and go around to say where you're from, who do you pastor? Let's just start with that.
Well, okay, I'll start. Actually, next year will be my 20th year pastoring. I've pastored numerous churches, about 5 or 6 churches in the metro area, DC area. But then, and now I'm a youth director. But they still give you churches if you want to take them, in transitions, if you want to take them. So right now I'm at the New Beginnings Church, also in Baltimore, Maryland, as their interim.
I'm Paul Graham. I look like the guy Patrick Graham, but I'm better looking. Just want to be clear about that. I work for the Potomac Conference. I am now the associate pastoral ministries director for the Northern region. In our conferences, our set of regional conferences, they'll call them ministerial director. So I'm the ministerial director of the North. I pastored Restoration Praise Center for the past 13 years. And I've been pastoring for the past 28 years. So that's all I got.
I'm Daniel Kelly Jr., originally from Brooklyn, New York.
So there you go.
Queen City, Charlotte, North Carolina, Trinity Worship Center. I've been in ministry for, good grief, I've been in ministry for 10 years.
Wow.
The last time I was on a flyer with the Grahams, I was still at Oakwood. And so this is a privilege. Since I don't get invited to Snack Time with the Grahams, it's just a privilege to be on here with them and with y'all. That's all I got.
Well, it's definitely a privilege to have everyone here.
The first question we kind of want to ask you, can pastors preach the word and still remain hopeful for their members despite the changes that are currently going on in the world?
First of all, we preach a message of hope. And sometimes we even preach a message of hope when we're not hopeful. So when you ask that question, it is really important to just put it out there that we preach a message of hope, and there is hope for our members or those who hear that what we're preaching is not our message, is God's message, which really I would say brings a high level of hope that whatever we're preaching about, whatever we're dealing with in this world, whether it's COVID, whether it's politics, whether it's whatever it may be, I have hope that when I preach the word, that someone would take that hope to another level.
The other thing is that some of your best sermons that you put out there is because you need it. So, I mean, sometimes you're preaching that thing and God got you preaching that thing because you need to actually hear yourself not prepare it, but you got to actually hear yourself say it. You know what I mean? That's going to make the change happen with you. So many times half the time you don't want to preach the sermon God gave you to preach. That's the honest truth. And when you put it out there, when you start preaching it, you're like, oh my goodness, did I just say that? Because you're preaching the truth, and the hope for it is that there will be changes. The hard part about it, the hardest part about preaching, especially pandemic, social justice, etc., is that while you're being you got to be careful of what you say as you're saying it. You know what I mean? Because I'm not a manuscript preacher, so you still got to be careful of what it is that you say and how you say it, because you could offend somebody, not the gospel offend, but you might say something about women. You know, I'm talking about the whole social justice thing that's going on. You may say something about the medical field, that somebody's sitting in front of you that's a first responder. You know, so the hope with all of that it will all translate, and that your members will know that you meant well either way, that you meant well.
Yeah.
The whole approach with pastoral ministry is hope. The ministry hangs on hope, because we're hopeful when we do preach a sermon that it's interpreted well and that it reaches where it needs to reach. We're hopeful that somebody would accept the Lord as their personal Savior. We're hoping that it sticks, that it works. Ministry, pastoral preaching ministry, it hangs on hope. And so, considering the times in which we're living and the pandemic and all of that, I think personally, I started out in this pandemic just kind of planning to wait it out. I was just going to kind of hide in my little cubby hole and just wait till the thing pass over, right? Hoping it'll just be done. But life happens. And while, I'm witnessing folks start to go backwards, get strung out on drugs and alcohol and things like that. And so my hope for better says, okay, Kelly, you got to get to work. You got to figure out how to do this, how to do ministry, and not just preaching, just ministry in the series. So you hope for ideas, you hope for innovation. It's just hope, man. And you hope.
So every one of you have touched on hope. So, and Pat, you stuck to it, I guess the strongest. But when you're feeling hopeless, how in the world can you preach hope?
Jackie, you could talk to any pastor, right? It's most sermons that they come up with is not on a Friday night. It's something that's
it ought not be on a Friday night.
All right, let me put it that way. It should not be on a Friday night. It's something that you're wrestling with all the time. You have to, and I could say this about most preachers. Let me just tell you this: most pastors are not bad, right? It's just that when we do something wrong, or we're not up to snuff on something, we just get the biggest light shined on us, right? So, the majority of the time what is the statement that we all use, Kelly, Paul? What we say: you're only as good as your last sermon. Right. So you could preach a string of great sermons. When you preach the bad sermon, everybody, they don't remember the one from the time before. They just remember your last one. Yeah. Jackie, when we go back to this, most pastors, when they preach, it's a working sermon, or it should be a sermon that continues to work, right? It's always going on. It's something that you're always thinking about. So you drive in your car and you get to the second piece of your sermon, you're erasing it on Thursday in your mind, and you coming back on Friday and say, okay, I'm going to go with this. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with the other. So we don't put sermons out there based on how we feel. You put sermons out there based on what you know your people need and what you need. You understand this is not speech writing. You understand what I'm saying? It's not speech writing. It's something that no matter where you are, no matter what has gone on in your life, no matter if you argue with your wife that day, no matter if you beat the kids that day, or you go through a downspout, you still put yourself in a little cubby hole that says, when I walk out here, God, I'm speaking for you. So it doesn't even matter what anybody else is thinking.
Well, that was definitely one of my questions right there. How do you know what your audience or your congregation needs, especially in the pandemic? You're doing everything virtual. How do you know what people need to hear?
Let me say this. I pastored in the pandemic and outside of the pandemic. Patrick pastored outside the pandemic and then came into the pandemic and pastoring. Yep. Okay. Pastor Kelly has been pastoring in the pandemic. So I've been brought out of the church during the pandemic. But let me share this with you. No great orator, right? No great orator can help people in the pandemic. No. It is shepherding that brings you through the pandemic. Okay. So I know that we're very big on sermons and this, that, and the other and what have you. But what's really big is checking on your members, checking on your community, being strong for everyone else when you're not even strong for strong yourself. Right. There's a great anxiety when you have a church of 400 or 500 people and they're calling you to ask you, should I take the vaccine? And you're like, should I take the vaccine? You see where I'm coming from? So how do we know what the people need? You know what the people need when you know what you need.
Yeah. Right.
You see where I'm coming from? I have 3 kids at home and a wife and bills, and you know that right when you leave the house, it's lined with masks, you know. And what's so hard about preaching this, and maybe Kelly can help with this, is that so many people feel as if because you're being careful, you're not being trustful with the Lord. Because you're being careful, then you're not being faithful. You see where I'm coming from? And one of the hardest things is to try to navigate through what the people need and still having to take care of your spiritual needs and your family's spiritual needs at the same time. This is a tough time. Pandemic is a tough time.
It is.
It's a tough time.
And let me jump in here to say, first of all, God still speaks through eternity. He just does. Now, the pastor spends our time in that, in the Adventist discipline. We're not allowed. I'm not going to tell you what pastors do, but we're not allowed to have another job. We're not allowed to moonlight, right? Because we're supposed to be full time. When you're in the hospital, we're supposed to come see you. When somebody died, we're supposed to, walk the family through the grieving process, funeralize, bury. We don't have the luxury of saying, hey, I can't be there because I have a meeting. I can't be there because I have, I'm the CEO of a company. We don't have that luxury, at least on paper, we're not supposed to, right? So we spend, the diligent pastor spends 30 to 40 hours a week studying sermon prep, research, whatever, to prepare. And then the amazing thing that happens, I'll be preaching about ABC, but the member that needs XYZ hears XYZ, right? And they'll call you on Sunday and like, man, Pastor, the Lord spoke to you. And I was going through this thing. And I'm in my mind like, that's not what I was preaching about. But, you know what I'm saying? And so one thing that that Pastor Henry Wright said years ago that resonates especially today is the idea that God calls pastors into ministry, majority of the time, to save the pastor. So if somebody gets saved along the way, that's just a byproduct of what God was trying to do in their life. He said that God called you because you're messed up. Paul Peter is a great example of that. And so again, it's a mystical thing that is happening when the pastor is delivering the message, and God is speaking. The Holy Spirit, when the pastor, the Holy Spirit, and the congregation meets on the same corner, man, that thing is phenomenal.
It is.
Jesus spoke in parables, right? And the reason why he spoke in parables, because your members or the people who he taught all have different perspectives on life, period. So we cannot prepare a sermon saying everybody's going to like it. Matter of fact, my dad has always told us, Paul, you want to add in what dad's always said?
My man said, if everyone likes you, you're doing something wrong.
He's doing wrong. Yeah.
Right? It's something you're doing wrong, right? Somebody has to meet you at the back when you're shaking hands and be like, I didn't understand the thing you said, or that was whack,
or I didn't like what you said.
Right. Or your texts didn't coincide with each other or whatever. You just be like, okay, thank you very much. Okay, go ahead. And by the way, I don't know where we're going with this, but by the way, Sister White even tells us that when we finish preaching, pastors are at the most vulnerable time of their existence. That is when you get slipped the phone number. That is when. No, I'm telling you. I'm just going.
But you segue right into my question. My next question: how do you overcome obstacles of temptation in church? People purposely wearing short dresses and phone numbers. Oh, Pastor, I'm depressed. Can you come to my house for some dinner so we can talk about it?
Let me share this with you. And Pastor Kelly can always text me and cuss me after. Months and months ago, I saw a narrative on his life, right? I'm just going to say that. And I wish that people recognize that we breathe. When we use the bathroom, we pull our pants down the same way. I'm just being straight. We pull our pants, we brush our teeth the same way. We pay bills like everybody else pays bills. And the fact of the matter is that, we have been ridiculed as pastors because we have slipped up, made errors, so-and-so, whatever in our lives. Let me tell you something. The greatest obstacle, as Pat said, is that when we get off that pulpit, it is like we've been through a 24 round fight.
Yep.
Okay. We have to, while we preach, we got to deal with the fact that now we may believe what we preach, but we got to deal with the fact that are we living what we preach? We got to live with the fact, what do I do after now that I preach? Was that altar call for them or was that altar call for me? And then when you reach the back door and someone slips you a number, or these days they don't slip numbers to us. Now, when me and Pat was in the work, early, we talk about 20 something years, they slip us a number. But now you just go to Facebook and send a message. You don't even need to be friends to send a message, just that and the other. And if your house ain't right, which a lot of times it's not, you can just answer back and get in trouble. You see where I'm coming from? And so, the hardest thing for us is to, as Kelly said before, if it's not sex, it's getting money elsewhere. It's using our talents to get to do other things. So I'm gonna do this. I know you're the moderator. I know you both are the moderator, but I can say this to Kelly right now as a ministerial director. Kelly, I'm gonna ask you this question. If you were not a pastor, straight off, if you didn't have those credentials in your pocket, what would you be doing right now?
Man, my passion is twofold. I would have been a pilot or a detective.
Well, here's the sad thing. You're doing both right now in the ministry.
That's
so,
right.
I didn't mean to turn it on you like that, but it's true, right? You pilot. When that plane was coming down, and what's his name, Sugi, in New York, was bringing that plane. Everybody that was on that plane was relying on the person who practiced that thing many times before he flew all of those hours. When he landed, don't forget, it is the FAA's job to come and deal with him as though he did everything wrong. Are you understand what I'm saying? So we're in the same exact field. We get weak, and to tell you the truth, it's not women in the church. It could be women outside the church. The devil knows where to get us at. And here's the biggest problem that we have in church life. The only two sins that they attribute to pastors is women and money. Those are the only two. When that is just the byproduct of what you're really going through. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's the easiest way to get out of what you're really going through, because sometimes you sit in meetings and those people emasculate you in meetings. And they know that you can't get up and punch them in the face. So they'll talk about you. They'll talk about your wife. They'll talk about your daughter. They'll talk about your children. And you have to sit there and take it and smile with them. And then when you go outside, you go home and your wife is like, why are you home late? Why are you this, that, and the other? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. And then you in the grocery store, a woman walk up to you and they pay you attention, not even knowing what is it that you've been through or what is it that you need. I'm not saying you slip them your number or you talk to them, but that from that very second, it's like massage therapy. You know what I mean? It's like you find yourself in a relaxing place where you should not be. And it's not just for that, y'all. It may not be a woman. It could be pornography, which is the easiest way to escape from church members.
Secretive. Yeah, because easy and secretive.
Right, because nobody's going to know. So you end up putting in your life things that you're going to cope with when you're not really coping with the way you're treated, or the way that someone treats you. So the real thing is that is that the way we deal with this, and I'm going to tell you, I'm a fast forward to the answer. Your first ministry is your family.
That's it.
Your second ministry is your family and you, or you and your family interchangeable. Church is way down the line. But we grew up and we came into this work feeling that you had to do everything. And so the weight is on your shoulders. My book is coming out. My book is called It's Only a Few More Miles to Go. And in that book is me talking to younger pastors about what to do and what not to do in the ministry, especially the things you don't have to do in the ministry.
Absolutely. We get fired for the smallest things that we do. And it matters who your president or your leader is. You understand where I'm coming from? And it's so scary that everything that you do, you got to watch out. Let me tell one story, and then you can pop off to Kelly. I was driving in England, And I always put. I was driving in England. This is youth director in England. Great guy. Pat, do you remember his name? A youth director in England with the beard. Come on, Kelly. Do you remember him? I mean, he's still there as a youth director. He's in.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Anyway, I can't believe I forgot his name. He's gonna kill me if he ever sees this, and I'm gonna send it to him anyway. We're driving. He picks me up from the airport. We're driving to the venue, and I'm going to preach at this venue just to take me back to the airport after that, right? And we stop at the light, and it's like this good lady walks by, skirt up to here, the whole nine, and I'm looking at him to see if he gonna look. You understand where I'm coming from? And my man keeps his eyes straight. And I preached about him afterwards that he did that or whatever. But we have to be so careful because even we in ministry don't have an accountability partner that we can say anything to or talk to, because in ministry you have competition. So if you're telling someone you have an issue and they want your spot, oh, they'll dime on you. So
Anthony Fuller is the name.
Anthony Fuller. Okay. So the fact of the matter is that now Kelly can't tell someone or one of his pastor friends, yo, man, he's single. I got a girl. We ain't doing the right thing. I just need you to pray for me. As soon as Kelly gets promoted to a bigger church or so and so whatever, and that guy wanted the church, he's gonna call somebody and say, yo, he having problems. Some of those obstacles are not even the people outside the church, it's the people you work for.
Let me jump in right there just to say, we don't piggyback, but we veggie back. I'm a veggie back on what Paul said. And that is that the pastoral journey is a lonely one. Now personally, I've always been a loner. I've always been a lone wolf. I tell everybody, man, I'd rather have 4 quarters than 100 pennies. You know what I'm saying? I don't need a lot of friends. I just need a few good quality people in my corner. That's all I need. And so, and somebody said that when you really want to know who your friends are, get in trouble. That's when you'll see who's really for you. And so it's just a strange dynamic where, we get the credit when things go right and the blame when things go wrong and stuff. And a lot of people don't understand the full narrative. I've come to a place where I say nothing. I let whatever people say about me, believe it, okay? Because I'm not going to defend myself. I'm not going to get out there and try to explain. You understand what I'm saying? Because as the goal to answer your question, it's all about practicing what we preach. It's all about practicing what we preach. And we preach a message of love. We preach a message of grace. We preach a message of forgiveness. And not to toot my own horn, but boy, I preached yesterday. And I preached about Jacob and the fact that it took 20 years between his conversion and his surrender. 20 years of God wearing him down and working with him. 20 years of being, ups and downs and right and wrong and trying to do the right thing. And it took 20 years from the place of Bethel where he saw the angels climbing up and down the ladder to get to Peniel where he wrestles with God and says, God, I'm not going to let you go until you bless me. Not everybody gets that. You know what I'm saying? Some people, we take the long route. Some people, God has us walk through the valley of the shadow of death. But God called us to minister while we're doing it. And so God, he is using you while he's fixing you. And you can look to John chapter 15 that talks about that. He says, I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever is in me that bears not fruit, I'm going to take away. But he says, while you're bearing fruit, I'm purging you.
That's right, man.
Okay. Okay. Where's there for you to go in the ministry that you can go out? Okay, yes, you have to go out to your outdoor resources. You can't talk to anyone inside the church. Then you're fighting against all of that ups and downs that you're dealing with. But then your members have expectations from you. Where is there any way that the church or can create some foundation or somewhere that you can feel safe, or will you always have this place of uncertainty or no place really to go?
So when it comes to what I've seen, and I've been Adventist all my life, I think that the church now is a lot more accommodating for life than 10, 20, 30 years ago. We do have resources now from the conference level, the ministerial level, where we can get therapy and the conference pay for it. And so I do see a shift. I think that a lot of the preachers may not know about it, but there are resources being made available to us. There are anonymous resources being made available to pastors now, because at first you just had to fake the funk. Kind of fake it till you make it and stuff, and just whatever you do, just put on a shirt and tie and act like everything is fine.
We truly want to thank you, gentlemen, for definitely being part of the Big E, the elephant in the room. Our viewers seem like they really appreciated your transparency and really just tuning in to really what you deal with on a daily basis in the ministry. We just want to thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share the Big E, the elephant in the room. And like we always say, the Big E, the elephant in the room, is where what we watch is what we speak about the unspeakable.
I like that, boy.
Truly, truly, truly. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Pastor Patrick, Pastor Paul Graham, and Pastor Kelly, thank you so much for being on this wonderful episode. And we look forward to everyone to tuning in soon with us. Have a wonderful afternoon and a blessed week.
Awesome.
Bye, everyone.
Welcome to What's Going On? My name is Demita Joe. Each Wednesday, you can find me here at 3 p.m. I'll be over here discussing different things that are going on and try to bring you a boost of positivity for your week, because we all need this. We're going to share some feel-good stories. We might find a hometown hero. We may take a look at some trending topic. And sometimes we might even find a lesson in a not-so-warm and fuzzy story if we can. I'm Demita Joe, and I'll see you guys on the next episode right here on What's Going On?
Well, they do that, cause we do that though. I see you talking, so we gon' take it though. And yeah, talking cheap, so don't do that though. My click 100 deep.
This is Tyron
and Nicole with your weekly RATV news break. Each Thursday at 12 noon Eastern, we'll come to you with the latest news, trends, and more with a positive spin.
We know there's a lot of positive news that doesn't get reported, but we want to give you the opportunity to share your story here on RATV. If you have a positive news story you want us to share, you can submit your story to news@re-tv.net.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Relationship Entertainment Television YouTube channel. Download the new RATV Live app on your mobile device and follow Relationship Entertainment Television on your favorite social media platform.
Don't forget, make sure you tune in to the RATV News Break each Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Until then, be blessed and be great.
Hey, it's your girl Tia Robertson. I'm the host of Entrepreneur Insider. Every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern for entrepreneurs and news that you need to know about. See you there.
Growing up in the church, we saw a lot. Things that people refuse to talk about. The elephants in the room. Mental illness, sexual abuse, broken families, domestic violence, and so much more. The Big E, The Elephant in the Room, is a show that sheds light on these topics. We're here to speak about the unspeakable.